At some point, I think it's really important for all of us to go on a spirit quest. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm struggling right now. It's one of those things where, I kind of maybe just went a little too hard on having fun. I live very close to Santa Anita Parkway. They've reopened. Dollar beers and dollar hot dogs. I mean, this is a bad combination. So I'm going to admit to you that I'm struggling today, which is why it's always a good day to check out. This is my segue into what you need to do is check out an indie movie that takes you on a journey. And Spirit Quest is one that I'm happy to tell you about. It's two friends who do drugs and go to the desert. Let's be honest. That's the setup. Now there's many more deeper layers to this, and I'm excited today to talk to the filmmakers. Let's bring them on. Brent, Lydic, Scarry are here from Spirit Quest. Gentlemen, how you doing today?
Great. Thank you so much for having us.
Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having us, dude.
Cool. I'm just this has to have been inspired by a real. Did you guys go to Joshua Tree and maybe do some mushrooms or something? Was this the inspiration? I mean, obviously, what I loved about the film was that, it starts out with that very basic premise, sort of a road trip movie going off to the desert. But as the movie goes on, there are deeper layers, weird hallucinations that reveal much more about what's going on. Tell me where this all came from.
Sure. No, I think you're right. We wanted to use kind of the drug trip and the buddy comedy as the vehicle for us, as Tip and I, who are actors first, writers, and then producers and directors following all of that stuff. But we wanted to use it as a backdrop for us to go and make our own project. And so we needed something that was going to allow us to have a lot of creativity, where we could go a bunch of different directions, and a mushroom trip out in the desert kind of lends itself to exactly that. I would say it's the perfect location for an indie comedy. It gives you so much production value, and it allows you so much freedom and wild places to go. So I think that was really the impetus of, like, what can we do together that'll allow us to kind of maximize all the resources that we have at our availability.
Did you like some of the things? Like, there's this weird, there's a lot of things that are weird in the movie. I love the thing where there's like you're on a show. You're like on some toy review show.
Is this part of the movie right now?
What's that?
Is this part of the movie right now, this show? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like there was sort of this weird where you're like on a show and you're like, yeah. I'm like, wait, what? Like, it was like you're at a junket or something. Yeah. Like, I just had that, like, confused in a good way. And it also felt very authentic. The host that you got felt like one of those toy review YouTube kind of things. But I love those sort of weird things. But there was one where just like, is that a real, there's tires all under a tree? Does that place exist?
Yeah. That was one of the, there's so many happy accidents in indie film. And that was something we always talk about, is like, how can you embrace those coming from an improv background? How can you yes and those happy accidents? And that tree was something we hit upon the very first day we were out filming. And as we took time to finish up the script and come back to it, we were like, we gotta embrace that for sure, because it was just bizarre, weird, awesome, sort of sad. A lot of tires just out in the desert, but also pretty profound given kind of where we started with it.
Yeah, it just, obviously you could read so much meaning into it, to like these broken tires under this space, but then you added more to that by having these messages appear on the tires. Like, I don't know, I just like all these touches. And I think it's like with an indie movie, you got to use, like, well, what do you have? And, well, one, you have yourselves as actors. It's the advice I give to a lot of actors are like, what advice would you give me? I'm like, hire yourself. Stop going out to auditions. Go out, write a project for yourself. It's the reason Tom Cruise has a production company, right? Like, he develops projects for himself. And on that note, like I'm gonna guess that that's what you guys did. You're like, look, we could go out on auditions constantly, or we can just do a project starring ourselves.
100%. I mean, Tip and I, we met in UCB, back in 2012, 2013. And we're, like you just said, we're actors. And we realized very quickly that if we want to get ahead or kind of get to where we want to be, then we need to create our own content. So I think we've both been doing that on a smaller level in short form and sketch comedy and Funny or Die, College Humor, those type of places where we were able to get some traction. But it really felt for us as like, all right, what can we do that will kind of get us to the next level? And I think for us was, let's make that short, or not let's make that feature film where we are the leads. And then we can just, create that script on our own. And, Tip and I both have quite a bit of production experience. Producing and directing has been kind of my 9-to-5 full-time job, as I've been, trying to get to on camera on the screen. So it was like produce my way into an acting career. And I think that was for Tip, was like getting ourselves to get out of our own way and allow ourselves to be to give us the shot that we want, and to be stars in a movie.
I really think that is just, and it's shocking how many people have begun their careers that way. I mean, it's a long list. So what were also some of the challenges? You obviously were out in the, there's one shot, God, I was so amazed by this, where the two of you kind of separate, and it's like this vast, and I'm like, oh my God, this, like, you're like dots, and then it gets bigger, and it's just like this huge expansive thing. I don't even know like how, like, in terms of directing yourself in a scene like that just must have presented some challenges. Also that makes it, beyond something. That's a movie, right? Like that's a movie type shot. But tell me about some of the production challenges that you face, especially when it's like, it's different when you are directing and you're in front of the camera.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so we kind of knew all that going in. So as we were writing the script, we were, kind of signposting, okay, these are kind of the challenges and things that we're going to run into. So it was really important for us, two things. This is an independent movie, and, obviously we don't have the big studio budget, but that didn't stop us from preparing and getting ready like this is the studio budget. So we location scouted everything together. We wrote the script, and then that also allowed us to block and rehearse the scenes as we were writing them, which then allowed us to, really use our improv and comedic backgrounds to get that script really tight. So then when we were on the days, we started Spirit Quest as a short film, and then we went and wrote the rest of the feature. So, between the first 2.5 days of the short film, it was 6 months of us writing the feature version of the script. And then we went out and shot 12 days over the summer. So for us to get a movie like Spirit Quest done, we needed to have everything so dialed in that when we got on the set on the day, that we could just really move, because we didn't have the ability to have multiple takes, long takes, all of these different things. And I think the other thing too that was a really big challenge, and that's something that we wanted to set out to do, was so many times when it is these small indie movies that the actors are also producing and directing, it's these one location type films, and we really wanted to try to add some scope. And so that scene in particular, it was like, let's really get lost in the desert, which is tough to do production wise with a really small crew, but then that allows you to do whatever you want with no one getting in your way or bothering you. You can have as much time as you need because there's no one around. So we're then able to really, really get the shots and go out. And as long as we're willing to put in the work, there was nothing stopping us from getting those really great cinematic shots that gave the movie this awesome feel.
I was going to say, it definitely felt bigger than I would have expected. And then secondly, I didn't at all feel like it's a one location movie, like, because you varied the environments and whatnot. I will say, I don't want to reveal anything about the ending, but the ending freaking blew my mind. The ending was just like, I mean, just in so many ways, kind of like bittersweet and weird, and also just like you've been on a journey, right? Like, you want to have those highs and lows and whatnot. And obviously your characters are going through something and needed this trip. And I just thought the ending was I just thought it was really inspired.
Oh man, thank you so much. Yeah, that means everything. That means everything.
Yeah, it was so fun for us too. I mean, again, like using the drug trip and the mushroom just gave us so much freedom to not worry about, like, 100% staying on narrative. When we realized that we didn't create, a through line here, but really what we did was rely on the chemistry between our two characters and our friendship, and then allow us to have just so much fun. I mean, as actors, there's nothing better than putting on crazy costumes and doing these far out characters. And so I think Spirit Quest was that idea of, like, we can throw in, and especially on a drug trip when you kind of are lost in it, you have so many different voices in your head that you picked up from television and growing up, and your own voices. It's all kind of just jumbled up around and flashing at you. And so we really use that as, like, all right, well, we can do the same in a sense of these two guys, like, really kind of exploring, that inner journey, or quest that we all kind of take in just growing up as going from kids to adults.
Yeah, and I think another thing that gave it so much connective tissue, despite the fact that it's all over the place, is the act of indie filmmaking itself. Like you described that one shot, it is so lean, it is so sparse. So just the very there's something that happens when you know something is done in that way, that we're all familiar with indie film, where it's like just the very fact of like being in a space suddenly starts to have meaning, and the very fact of us as friends and co-writers and co-creators of this thing, like just the fact of us going on the journey. By the time you get to the end, it's work on these levels where you're with the characters, you're with the drug trippiness of it and the changes that you've gone through as a viewer, but you're also with the reality of the artistic process itself a little bit. And so it's kind of fun how, you feel mentally or intellectually like, oh, I've gone all over the place, but you've been sort of stretched in these very real ways. And we just felt so lucky because, it not that it was totally our first rodeo, but it was our first, experience together and our first experience with a feature. And so it was like, at least for me anyway. And it was really incredible how that all comes together through just the very act of, I mean, that's like the beauty of filmmaking, which gets me so jazzed and obsessed and everything. So,
and it's also, I can tell from the Chiron, when you've got that many hyphens, it's like a small indie passionate project. You know what I mean? It's like, because you got to wear a lot of hats, I mean, in addition to that, acting, right? So, oh God. Okay, I know this sounds weird, but I don't get the opportunity to talk about this so often. Your marketing, that poster is awesome. Like, I always harp on like indie filmmakers, like it's not difficult to like seek out a poster artist to make your movie stand out. And I always think that like it's important to have like concepts like second read, and like just a sort of simplicity, but like memorable. So your poster key art, I love, which
thank you. Yes, thank you. We're so proud of it. And I got to tell the artist, his name is Chris Barnes. He's at Brutal Posters. He is an unbelievable poster artist, and he normally does horror movies. So this was a little bit outside of his wheelhouse, but I did exactly that. It doesn't. I mean, we have, in terms of the technology, in terms of filmmaking, just even on our iPhones, but then also the ability to reach out to people and to connect. And so it just takes a little bit of effort to find these people, and these people are excited to hear from you. I mean, especially if you're fans of their work, they're looking for other people. And so it was such a huge win for us to be able to get that. And I've been fighting, tooth and nail with the distributor and everyone to use that poster. Please just use that poster.
Well, because I mean, as weird as it sounds, like I will be interested, especially when you're like scrolling through whatever, streaming service or VOD thing, you're looking for a movie. It's got to pop. It really has to pop. And when you see, I'm just like, I'll see some of these posters and shake my head and I'll just go, well, this was a decent movie, but like a terrible key art. That key art is so critical, and just being able to like convert it to different things. So, if you're watching or watching this on YouTube or listening, you'll see on the thumbnail, we use a piece of your key art as the art for this episode, right, of the podcast. Just, you know, it's just really important because it catches your eye. It's weird. I believe in the key art. Like there's a key art awards in Hollywood, right? They give awards for that kind of stuff. So and you guys really just put the whole package together. Tell me, it's out on video on demand right now, right?
That's right.
Okay, cool. Out and available, Spirit Quest. Guys, thank you so much for spending time with me on the Film Threat podcast today. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us, Chris. It was really great to talk to you.
Thank you.
On the film. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, brother.